My wife compelled me to agree to an open marriage, claiming that I was dull and, if I didn't comply, she would pursue a divorce. Now that I'm involved with someone else and her partner has left her, she suddenly sees me as the perfect husband who meets all her needs and desires, and expects me to focus entirely on her. My wife, 37, and I, 35, have been married for 15 years and share 2 children, a 14-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. About a year and a half ago, my wife approached me with a request to open our marriage. She explained that she was bored with just the 2 of us and wanted to explore more experiences. Initially, I strongly opposed the idea. I firmly believe that marriage is a commitment between 2 individuals. At the time we married, I had been with 5 previous partners, whereas I was her first and only one. However, she made it clear that she would file for divorce if I didn't agree to her terms. Not wanting to end our marriage, I reluctantly consented, but only under specific conditions. No partners would be brought to our home. We wouldn't discuss details about our outside partners. Our children and family would remain unaware. All partners would undergo testing beforehand. We would avoid engaging with anyone we both know. I had a strong suspicion that my wife already had someone in mind, which was confirmed when she went out 24 hours after our agreement and didn't return until 4 a.m. It was a tough pill to swallow, but I went along with it to save our marriage. In May of that year, I met Amber. Our daughters are both in the marching band, and that's how we were introduced. Amber, a divorced woman, has no interest in remarrying. Like anyone else, she has her needs, and about 5 months after opening our marriage, I began a casual relationship with her. At first, it felt like I was being unfaithful. However, it was refreshing to have a no-strings-attached connection with someone who shared the same expectations. Over time, I became more comfortable with the arrangement, and it even enhanced the intimacy within my marriage. Both my wife and I seemed happier. My wife's partner, whom I never met, stopped seeing her in April due to complications related to the pandemic. Apparently, while he was in an open marriage, his wife was unaware, making it difficult for him to continue. In May, we helped organize a Zoom concert for the marching band students, which turned out wonderfully. During this event, my wife met Amber for the first time. Unbeknownst to me, Amber had shared details about our arrangement with a few of the other mothers, and the information eventually reached my wife. My wife confronted me, demanding that I end my relationship with Amber because now, according to her, we both know her. I refused, arguing that Amber didn't violate the rules we initially agreed upon since neither of us knew her beforehand. This led to ongoing disagreements, with my wife repeatedly insisting I end things with Amber, despite having been perfectly fine with her own partner for a year. Recently, my wife announced that she wanted to close our marriage. I agreed under 2 conditions. The marriage would remain permanently closed moving forward. She would sign a document waiving spousal support in the event of a divorce. She became enraged and refused outright. As a stay-at-home mom who hasn't worked since our marriage, she claimed that such an agreement would leave her with nothing if I decided to leave her for Amber. I proposed including a list of mutually agreed-upon exceptions, such as infidelity on my part, where the agreement could be nullified. However, she declared the matter non-negotiable, stating she wouldn't tolerate being cheated on and left penniless. I reminded her that this entire situation had been her idea from the start, and I had only agreed to it in an effort to save our marriage. She countered by saying that if we didn't close the marriage, it might as well end. I told her I wouldn't tolerate being threatened with divorce every time things didn't go her way. She accused me of being overly dramatic and insisted that I should focus on rebuilding our relationship. She asked if I would comply without setting conditions. I acknowledged that there was no future with Amber. Our arrangement had always been purely physical. Even though I know I'm standing firm on my principles, I feel like I might be jeopardizing my marriage over something insignificant. At the same time, I'm convinced this isn't really about Amber at all. Based on some advice I received earlier, I reached out to Amber this morning. I reminded her that we had agreed to keep our relationship private and asked if she had disclosed any details about it to others. She denied telling anyone, and I didn't sense any dishonesty in her response. Curious, I checked my wife's Google location history and discovered that she had followed me to Amber's house in April. She had tracked my movements, deliberately introduced herself to Amber, and created conflict. All this time, I had assumed she was genuinely interested in connecting with the band parents, but her real motive was to disrupt my relationship with Amber. I feel at a loss about what to do next. This past month has been incredibly challenging. When I confronted my wife about her behavior, she initially denied everything. However, I brought up her location data, which showed her tracking me. She tried to deflect by accusing me of invading her privacy, but I didn't let the argument derail. Eventually, she admitted she was uncomfortable with me having a relationship while she didn't. She claimed that my choice of a school mom hit too close to home. I offered a compromise. I would end my relationship with Amber if she agreed to counseling, permanently close the marriage, and start looking for a job to contribute to household expenses. She objected, claiming that being a stay-at-home mom was her role. I suggested revisiting the topic after the pandemic, but made it clear that, once life returned to normal, staying home without contributing financially wouldn't be an option. We attended a few therapy sessions, which initially seemed productive. The therapist challenged her about following me, questioned her reasons for seeking a relationship outside our marriage, and asked her to address many of the issues I had been grappling with. However, things took a turn for the worse when she admitted her partner had been a high school boyfriend she had reconnected with. She confessed that their previous relationship had ended before they became physically intimate, and she had been curious to fulfill that missed experience. I was furious. I pointed out that if my involvement with a school mom was too personal, then her relationship with a married ex-boyfriend was completely unacceptable. Unable to process my anger, I left and checked into a hotel to calm down. I didn't want our children to witness my frustration. When I returned home, I noticed my 14-year-old daughter acting unusually distant. After pressing her about her behavior, she confronted me about cheating on mom with a band mom. I asked where she had heard this, and although she hesitated at first, she eventually revealed that my wife had told her. My wife had claimed I was staying at Amber's house after leaving. I stayed calm, showed my daughter the hotel receipt on my phone, and reassured her that I loved her and always would. Despite my anger, I kept my composure and didn't confront my wife immediately. Instead, I reached out to the ex-boyfriend's wife on Facebook. I informed her that her husband had been involved with my wife for over a year and offered to share evidence if needed. She was grateful, admitting she had suspected something for a while. Later that evening, my wife erupted in rage, accusing me of violating the confidentiality of our therapy sessions and ruining the ex-boyfriend's life. I fired back by asking why she had told our daughter lies about me. She denied the accusation and claimed she had only told her I was away for a few days. This all happened last Thursday, and we haven't spoken since. We're supposed to have another therapy session tomorrow, but I'm not sure if it's even worth attending. She keeps lying, and I don't know if I can ever trust her again. I understand that filing for divorce is probably the only logical choice, but the thought of doing so makes me feel sick. It feels like a personal failure that I couldn't make my marriage work. Even though I know where this is headed, I feel nauseous every time I pick up the phone to call an attorney. You're not the one at fault here. Your wife wanted to cheat but didn't want to admit it, and she never expected you to act on the same agreement. Her behavior, using divorce as leverage and trying to sabotage your relationship with your daughter, is manipulative and unacceptable. It's clear that she doesn't want to take responsibility for her actions. While this situation seems beyond repair, don't blame yourself. You did everything you could to hold on to your marriage, but sometimes letting go is the healthier option. Be open and honest with your daughter about the truth. It's better to share the full story than let rumors and half-truths create unnecessary pain.